Good morning to everybody and welcome to this first training session of the Biomac project. I am Giulio Poggeroni from Eubia, partner of the Biomac project, and today we will learn about the circular economy from the point of view of sustainable business models that private actors may adopt in order to exploit the advantages of the circular economy from a competitive point of view. And today we will have our first lecturer, who is Eleonora Di Maria from the University of Padova, also partner of the Biomac project. Good morning, Eleonora. And this session will work as follow. Eleonora will make her lecture in the space of around half an hour, and then you will be able, in the meantime, to post questions. And in case we will have some, at the end, we will try to answer such questions. I invite you to use the question and answer box, while we will use the chat box for sharing pages or websites or informations. And then, without further ado, I'll give the floor to Eleonora. Eleonora, you can switch on your microphone and start.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Julia, and welcome to all for this first training session, Biomac, devoted to circular economy and business model. I'm going to share my screen. So the topic of today's speech is to explore which are the potentialities of the circular economy from a competitiveness point of view. And the idea for you is to know more about how firms could manage innovation and manage a new way of dealing with new products, the fact that through circular economy there is the possibility to exploit resources in a very different way. And so we will go through the different stages, let's say, of the circular economy, having in mind that from our point of view, the key message that I would like to start with first is that circular economy has not only to deal only with waste, but more in general is a very interesting and challenging process of innovation where the firm has to redesign the way through which select resources, use resources within the production process, but more precisely also towards the market. So having in mind that circular economy, as you can see from these slides, starts with natural resources, bio-based material, which is one of also the key activities and innovation part that we at Biomac we are dealing with. One of the starting point is that the firm has to rethink the way products are designed, and we will see that this is really relevant because through new materials and bio-based material, eco-friendly resources, the product could last longer, could have a very different impacts on the way from an environmental point of view. So with the sustainable business model, the process is that of combining having a better position into the market without compromising or having negative damages on the environment. So the idea is to start, and we will see, is to focus on the eco-design part, because through design, the circular economy is able to allow also in the other following step of the circle to support new ways through which the product is conceived and is delivered towards the market. There is a strong attention also on the eco-efficiency, so the idea that the firms could use differently, more precisely, the resources internally, but we will see that new business models are more importantly concentrated in the final part of this circle, where the product should be shaped differently, and also the way through which the value is produced, not only in terms of pricing for the firms, but also in terms of the value delivered to the customers, should be redesigned, rethink in a very different way. And we will see that through the circular economy framework, there is also the fact that the firm do not compete only within its own industry, but there are lots of freedom and opportunities in terms of creativity to try to use resources that come from other industries, from other value chains that could be then re-put into the circle as new inputs. So having that in mind, the strategies and so the business model that are connected with the circular economies are referred to the different areas that characterize the circular economy, let's say, principles. So there is a hierarchy in the way through which the resources can be used, and this leads to different opportunities also in terms of the firm and how the value is produced. So the starting point, and we'll see also in one of the business model that I will present in a while, refer to an efficient use of resources. This is one of the key pillars of the circular economy. And the idea here is to try to narrow the loop. So try to consider the fact that different resources should be put as input for products. So, the starting point would be try to refuse the use of some resources where those are not relevant, which means that in terms of the design of the product, the firm may decide whether or not to use some materials, for instance, to have, instead of, 10 different materials that have to be combined together, to reduce to, 5 or 2, depending on the performance of the product, but also on the different characteristics of the resources to be considered. In this area, we will see that specifically the role of suppliers is relevant. The most challenging but also interesting and promising part, also from an economic point of view, is the process related with slowing the loop. So the idea is that from a circular economy point of view, resources should be kept in use as long as possible. So the attention here is on the extension on the product life cycle, which means delivering services working in some directions that are in the brackets, so reuse, repair, refurbish, repurpose. That are keywords that we will see are relevant for different business models. In this case, the value which is connected with this, let's say, slowing the loop perspective is to rethink and reorganize not only how the product is produced, but also how it is delivered to the market. This is the most challenging part because it's not only related to the, let's say, industrial and let's say our operation point of view, the fact that we use different resources, but is require also a changes in the retail chain, in the commercial activities, in the marketing activities for the firm, and also in the way through which the consumer or the customer more in general perceive the value and the price which is attached to this product. The last part refers, which is connected with, narrowing the loop, is this recycling part. So the fact that through the production process, but also for product, then usually we generate waste. With the circular economy approach, the goal is to minimize waste and try so to reuse as much as possible the product. But at the end, when it's no more possible, then the closing the loop means using those waste to try to give another value to those resources through recycling and recovering in order to be reconnected with the initial part. So with this in mind, my attention will be in this session, in this training session, is to focus on the different business models that have been identified through the lenses of the circularity, that refers to different steps of this cycle and are connected with the different ways and perspective through which the loop are considered. So I will go one by one, starting from a business model which refers to, which is circular supply chains, circular suppliers, which refers to companies that are fully devoted to compete by providing to the market in a B2B, in a business to business context, new materials that are really connected with the circularity. Then we will go through sharing platform, product as a service, product life extension, and resource and recovery. So the first one that is really much consistent also with what we are doing within the Biomac project refers to the fact that there are some companies that also taking into account their expertise, for instance, in terms of R&D, so research and development on material, they can compete by specializing in providing to other companies as suppliers, for instance, renewable new materials, raw materials that have a different sources. So instead of relying on, I don't know, materials that are based on, on fossils, so no sustainable material, they are really focused on giving the chance to other companies that are within the value chain, in the automotive industry, I don't know, in the food industry, in the shoes, in fashion, in whatever industry it is, some materials that are consistent with the fact that at the end, the product should be sustainable, reducing the impact on the environment, increasing the possibility to be recycled, and for instance, providing, I don't know, much, longer and more a product with a longer life cycle. Those suppliers combine the fact that they use that refers to I don't know, bio-based material, or they have expertise in transforming waste, in recycling waste, and transforming it into new materials that then can be, delivered, so sell to other companies. This is the fact that those suppliers, as I was saying at the beginning, have not only the expertise regarding the R&D, but have to manage also the fact that new inputs come from industries that are not necessarily connected one with the others. So I can use food waste to generate new materials that can go into the fashion industry. So those suppliers are the ones that connect and give value to their customer, specifically also because they have this technical but also managerial expertise in connecting all those supply chain and value chain. The challenging part for this business model is related to the fact that sometimes the availability of raw material is not, completely settled compared to the well-established supply chain sources. The quality of inputs may not necessarily be so stable and standardized, and it's also important sometimes to the fact that at the customer's level, there should be new technologies that could be able to use the new materials that those suppliers are able to provide. And sometimes the market has to be developed, especially where the materials are very new. I will go very briefly on this part, which is the sharing platform. There could be companies, but this is also interesting for social enterprises or not-for-profit organization that use digital technologies. So use, let's say, what we call digital platform in a kind of e-commerce idea, that are able to wants to provide value and compete by putting together, allowing customers and or companies, so it could be a B2B but also a B2C level, a C2C level, so customer to customers connection, that allow users that are no more interested in a product to find a market. So this is connected, for instance, with the second-hand market. It could be related to the fact that there are some customers that want to, let's say, sell the product they don't use anymore. So the coherence with the circular economy framework is related to the fact that the idea is to avoid that those products that are not perceived anymore as valuable for the customers become waste. This is interesting also because it could be connected also with services. There could be, the many initiatives of sharing platforms through which from a single user, a single use of the product, the idea is to increase the value and increase the use of resources connected with that specific product, increasing, having multiple users over time and multiple uses also of the same product. So the challenging part here is to build the digital platform and try to create a market for the suppliers, so to create enough demand, but at the same time enough supply to let really this connection, this online transaction become sustainable. This product as a service is considered the most innovative, I'll say, most challenging also business model and sustainable business model from a circular point of view. What does it mean, product as a service? Usually the transaction refers to product that is sold from from the firm to another firm, or from the first to the customers, to the final consumers. Usually there is the fact that the product goes from from manufacturing to the the market sphere to customers, and the customer becomes the owner. But the idea here is that through this more established linear economy framework, the problem is that the customers, as this could be challenging when we refer to final customers, so consumers, that could be also citizens, the consumers have to bear all the effort and costs related with recycling the product, trying to reduce the fact that the product become waste, and so on and so forth. With the product as a service idea, the ownership, so the control of the product, remains at the firm level, at the producer, to simplify. And the idea is to identify which are really the performances that the buyer is really interested to have. So if I provide lumps, probably what the interesting part is to have the light, not necessarily the lamp. This is the same with the car. We are more, maybe the customers are more interested in buying mobility instead of buying the car. So with this in mind, the product as a service requires firms to redesign not only the product, but also the process through which the firm goes to the market. And the idea is to lease in the product, have a, I don't know, monthly fee through which the customer can pay. And from this point of view, the attention is on the fact that it's on the producer side, the let's say the effort in order to maintain the product, so work in terms of maintenance, try to invest in the quality of the product in order to let the product keep maintain the quality over time. And so from this idea, the ownership remains at the producer level, and this could be consistent with all the effort related with the fact of the extensive responsibility of producers, that from this business model, they are more able to control what is in the consumer's hands in terms of the product. This requires, I was saying that is a challenging because it requires from a consumer point of view a different approach, a different mentality. The fact that we are not necessarily used to think about some product that could be leased. It could be just for a shortened amount of time. But from a business point of view, this could be challenging because it increases the financial constraint in terms of how the product should be produced, but also should be sold, taking into account which that is not a transaction, a spot one, but requires a constant relations with the customer. Product as a service is business model is also connected with the other business model that refers to the fact that the product has to last longer, which is exactly the contrary of the linear, let's say, economy, in which from substitution of product, the firm may compete and create new market, and so new sales, and so new profit, and so on. From this point of view, and this approach and let's say way through which the value is driven to the market is connected with the design and the eco-design part that I was mentioning at the beginning. Because from in order to let the product to last longer, which means that the quality should be more strengths. So the firm should invest, for instance, in the kind of materials that could allow the firms to last longer, or to modify the perception of the customers, where the value which is perceived in the product is completely different than what was at the beginning. So durability, in terms of quality, try to modify the product in order to, for instance, avoid seasonality, is something that require a different innovative approach to product. And from this point of view, the idea is to compete selling product, but try at the same time to provide also revenues coming from services connected with product, in terms of, for instance, training, try to provide additional services to customers in terms of, for instance, repair services. So modify the way through which the product is used and is paid, taking into account that this low in the loop framework has to be applied. With the product life extension, there is also the need, for instance, to develop new approaches in terms of sales, but also logistics. The retail chain, so the stores, could be the point of connection between the firm and the suppliers that can use these stores, for instance, to ask and to access to repair services, maintenance, refurbish. So try to modify the approach with a way that not only the product has to be sold, but what has to be sold is also different values connected with the product. The last one, and then I will leave, let's say, the floor for different questions, refer to the resource discovery. The idea, this is not the business model per se. This is mentioned in a way that the firm should reconsider the kind of resources, internal resources, that are used. So if we think about also the circular suppliers approach, the idea here is that there are some suppliers, some companies that are specialized in identifying materials that can come from the nature, sustainable new raw material, but much of the many inputs that could be transformed into new materials come from the waste, but comes from also from byproducts, but some waste that are connected with the production process. And so any firm may want to look inside its manufacturing process, consider it as a mine. So try to understand what are exactly the resources that are used, or there are many, let's say, wasted that could be transform into more valuable resources. And so from this point of view, the idea is to try to create some connection with specialized suppliers, with the research center, so having in mind also the research collaboration as an important process through which reducing the waste and increase the value of byproducts, waste, refuse from the production process that up to now, many firms really transform into waste, paying for waste management, and that instead could be re-put into the cycle as input for new products. In this case, so there is the connection between the proactive role of the firms that want to reduce the kind of resources or waste that are internally produced, and can be connected with external partners, research centers, suppliers that could see in those waste an opportunity. There could be some situation in which this could be a new business model per se, in cases where those materials that are produced internally can have, I don't know, a huge volume. And so from this point of view, it can become a new sources for sales, in addition to the traditional business activities. In other cases, the idea is that the firm want to or need to, or could be better to look internally in order to rethink the types of materials that are used. So I would, my task today was try to provide you with a brief overview of the different business models that are connected with a different approach to materials and to resources, having in mind that there is a role related with innovation, but also technology in terms of digital technologies can have a role. I didn't stress too much, but I can say now that in order to let product as a service as really a business model that works, though many products should become IoT, so smart product that could be traced, and so through which the firm can know more about the how the customers use the product. And this is the same for the sharing economy. I will stop here, and I will thank you for the attention. And of course, since I just go very briefly to any of the business model related with circular economy, of course, I am more than welcome to reply to the question that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eleonora. And maybe I have just one comment about the last slide where you talked about the company as a mine. I think I see it from the perspective of solid biomass, for instance. There's, I think, a lot to be done in terms of companies that provide the resources, the raw materials for this circular business models, let's say, and thinking about the potential market of supplying agricultural residues, agricultural prunings that sometimes we see burn in the open fields, while this is a complete waste of resources. And there are not I think, at least in my experience, there are not any companies that are devoted to the collection of these resources. So there's a lot to be done, and there are economic planes to be exploited, let's say. So we have so far one question that I don't know if it's more a question or a comment. So it says, in a parallel context, consider some of the biosynthetic fibers. If you try to increase the durability, there can be a compromise in biodegradability, isn't it?
Good questions. I agree, it's a comment and a question. I must say that there's always trade-offs in the circular economy, as we experience also in the biomac. There is an attention, for instance, on life cycle assessment, LCA, to try to evaluate the kind of resources that are used. I think that sometimes and this is also the, let's say, the strategic choices of the firm. Some firms may decide to work more on the durability. So these have constraints in terms of the kind of resources that could be used as input for products. In other cases, if we decide that, if the firm decided that want to work more on, raw materials that are biodegradable, these could have an impact in terms of the durability. I agree. In this case, I think the two actions to be considered. One is referred to the fact that if we change the kind of materials, I mean, I'm from a management and not a technical and raw material person, but if we change the materials, the inputs for which we shape the product, we have to consider not only technical process, I would say, but also the customer expectation. So if we use, I don't know, fiber that are made by plastic that last lots, and then we change into bio-based material that can shorten the durability, we have to explain to the customers that this product will last, I don't know, less, but this is not in it's not a problem of quality, and so the customer decided, oh, this is a product that doesn't have so much value, I will not buy any more of that, but is a specific strategic and sustainability related choices. And so we have to consider the fact that if we change and we have an impact on the durability, you have to explain it to the customers in order to explain which is the value behind the product. This is one point, so more a marketing kind of action. And so the first has to know how to deal with this. The other is sometimes we have to compare which is the best options from a not only from an economic but also from an environmental point of view, and maybe durability could be the good option. In other cases could be the fact that the product life cycle lasts shorter, and but we have to consider also from a comparative point of view the different option. I think this is really relevant, and it may change over time, because one of the important part that we are also experiencing and innovating, for instance, as Biomac, is to try to reduce cost of sustainable material. This is one of the key challenge. And if we are able to do so, this will allow new suppliers to provide new materials. First may compete redesigning their product by using sustainable material with less impact on the final prices of the product. That could be, of course, competing could be a challenge.
Thank you, Eleonora. So maybe there's another question. Thank you. Thank you. Could you mention some existing circular supplier examples?
Okay, thank you for the questions. There are some suppliers. One of them, for instance, is very close to our university in the Veneto region, which is Mixcycling. I could then put the name in the chat. Is a supplier that is really using waste of resources, using the waste of different food industries to transform into new products that are then sell to very different application. But of course, we have also suppliers also in our Biomac network on that. So there are more and more custom suppliers that really are focused on providing new materials.
So sorry, this supplier is a supplier of the raw materials, but then also of the product, or just the raw materials?
Just of the raw materials. Okay. This is one of the examples.
Okay. There are not other questions so far, so please, if you have others, this is the time to post them now. In the meantime that you think about it, I will invite you to follow the page, the LinkedIn page of Biomac, our website, and of course put an eye on the open call that is open now and will last until June. And just to remember you that this is the first training activity. These are meant to be open short webinars focusing on a specific argument, and which can be open, of course, to questions, as we just did. And the second one will take place on the 4th of April. It will be about open innovation test beds, and more will follow in April and May. So I don't see other questions. So for now, I thank you, Eleonora, and for your very interesting presentation and replies. I thank you, the audience that was quite numerous, I would say. And we will see each other in the next training activities. So have a nice day, everybody.
I'm seeing that there are some.
There's a last moment.
Okay. Questions.
Now that you presented common business model patterns for circular economy, are you also working on how to initiate and manage transformation process to a circular economy?
Good question. I would say that the starting point for the firm is to try to include circularity into the business model, and then the firm, especially the manufacturing firms, discover that they have to change their internal processes. And this is something which is partially part of the managerial process, if I understand the question. Partially is related with more, having engineering and chemical and technical background that go into the process related with material development and how the industrial process is organized. But I would say that also it's really important to have also the design competencies, because design for circularity, which is one in a circle, usually you have not the starting point is a circle, but the starting point is in any case the design part. So having inputs from new materials, which is one part, but in transforming the processes also with the design is really important, because if you don't design properly the product, for instance, you cannot repair it because it's not modular. You are not able to repair it because, or recycle it. So I think that the transformation, as the question was focused on the established processes, will be one of the key challenges. So for new companies, it could be easiest to start thinking circular, but there are a huge amount of companies that are manufacturing companies that have to rethink their process, and different competencies have to be put in place.
Thank you for the reply, and thank you also to the attendee who made a last moment question. So there's another one. Is there any provision for applying for internships in this sector? Well, it depends.
I think it's plenty of opportunities there. As I mentioned, the firms that are involved in this process of changing, they are asking for competencies, but it also opportunity from students or from young workers, men and women that want to work to have an experience. So I think that more and more demand from the firm side will be there.
Yeah, absolutely. When there are this question, I always suggest to dig deeper in the sector, see who are the actors in the country, regions that you're interested in, and then start searching company by company, university by university, and see if there are opportunities open. So you have to study also on this. So there are no questions. Again, I thank you, Leonora, for your presentation today. Thank you, the attendees who participate in this first training session, and please follow the pages, the channels of the BioMac project to stay updated on the next activities. As I mentioned, more training webinars will come already in beginning of April. So please stay tuned and see you next time. Bye-bye.